Alright, so I said yesterday in the Car Talk Thursday video that I binged the heck out of the Chainsaw Man manga and wanted to talk about it, but I just kind of make it its own separate thing, so here we are. Another thing I said in the Car Talk Thursday video, well, specifically when I was talking about Dr. Stone, I think one of the first comments I made was, if I were to have kids, this is the kind of thing I would want them to read. Because it, excuse me, but because it, it encourages science, it encourages inquisitive thought, all that kind of stuff. And it's the kind of thing I would want my kids exposed to at a young age. I bring that up because even though these are both Shonen Jump, I don't know if I would do the same thing with Chainsaw Man. I feel like Dr. Stone is a G, maybe a PG. There might be maybe a specific joke or a moment. I'm alright, this is maybe a bit of a PG scene, but overall, Chainsaw Man is a strong PG-13. To put it another way, Shrek, because we're doing DreamWorks movies, Shrek is a PG movie. I saw it when it came out, and I was 7 or so. I was the target audience for Shrek. And it's a movie I love. I've always loved it. And yeah, as a kid, seeing him stop on jackasses, this is the coolest thing ever. I my kids, if they were, again, they don't exist. I'm not Wanda. I'm not obsessed with my fictional kids or anything. But would I show them Chainsaw Man? I would wait till they were teens. It is very crass. It's very violent and very perverse. I don't think it is for younger ages, but again, kind of like I said in Dr. Stone, I'm 29, so Dr. Stone doesn't really hit it for me, although I like it. Chainsaw Man does, although I will admit, it took a while to get there. I was enjoying it, but it almost kind of like Giant Robo. It's I like this, but when does it get good? I'm not exactly sure at what point it was. I think it was around The Bomb Devil. It might have been a little before that where I was okay, I think I'm in. I think another thing to kind of piggyback off that is the artwork. The artwork is not bad at all, but I remember the first few chapters not being whoa, this looks really good. I was this looks fine. It looks okay. And then as it went on, I got really into just how it looked, into a lot of the devil designs. And by the end, I'm yeah, I love the artwork in the manga. I think some of my favorite designs, I'll try to keep this, I'm not going to try to go super deep into spoilers. So again, like I said on Thursday, I get kind of I did the Zero video earlier, which was constantly like I said in Azure, so like I said yesterday. I'm going to try to keep this relatively spoiler free. I will allude to things that happen in the manga that have yet happened in the show, but I'm not going to go into a lot of detail. I'm going to try to use a lot of really vague terms. So if you've read the manga, you'll probably know what I'm talking about. If you've only watched the show, you're not going to have any context for some of these. And then when they come in later, whether it's in this season or later, you're oh, okay, I know what's going on. Some of my favorite designs is Beam, the shark. Here, I wrote them down. What were they? No, I didn't. Never mind. No, it was just I think it was just some panels that I really like the Makima death stare, which I know that's been animated, which I think looks a lot better in the manga. Beam, just whatever, he's a shark. Specifically the scene where Denji is riding him. I laughed so hard at that. I immediately took a picture. But I think my favorite panel in the manga is the astronauts. And again, trying to keep it vague. If you've read the manga, you probably remember the scene I'm talking about. I loved that. It just looked so beautiful and haunting. Not quite to the level of some of the shots I really liked from Hoseki no Kuni, but in a very similar vein. And oh, wait, no, here we go. Sorry, I'm looking at my notes. So I have one note that just says, it's just talking about how, I think the art got a lot better, and then some of the designs I liked. And then literally the next thing is specific monster designs I liked, which the monster related to the astronauts. That is a monster design I really like. Santa's feels so weird to say out of context, but again, if you've read the manga, you know what I'm talking about. Santa Claus's design once you get the full reveal of what Santa looks like, I really liked it. And the Justice Devil, really liked all of those. And I mean, I guess I have to throw Bucky in there. Freaking Bucky, the undead chicken devil. I talk a little bit about Bucky here in a bit when I just talk about some of like my favorite elements and side characters and shit. I fucking love Bucky. My next big point is, to me, what Chainsaw Man is. Now, yes, it is a shonen. It's a battle shonen. You know, it's on the surface, it is about a dude that wants to touch boobs. And he does it really early and is like, this really wasn't that great. And then finds someone he likes and touches her boobs. He's like, oh my goodness, this is better. I just want to do more shit to spend more time with this person that I like so I can touch her boobs more. Yay! And if I have to kill devils to do it, I'll do it. And that's the basic bare bones plot premise of Chainsaw Man. What it actually is to me, what I get out of it, it is a character study of Denji. I don't remember his last name. I don't know if he actually has a last name. I imagine probably like the very first chapter probably mentioned it, but it is the story of him. Not just a person who wants to touch boobs. It is the story about a human being who was not lived as a human being. He has not made connections. He has no education. He has no real sense of morality. And it's not because he's a demon. Because there was something where it felt like kind of early. There's a conversation with a devil hunter who's trying to train Denji in power. And he's like, hey, do you want to avenge people who died? No. Do you, really feel attached to people? No. And it's a couple questions like that. He's like, great, you guys are both perfect, blah, blah, blah. And I remember reading it and thinking, I feel like this is supposed to make me think Denji has become less human after becoming Chainsaw Man. But to me, it's more just, he was never really a person to begin with. And that's really fucked up. And I think that's one of the things I like about it. It really feels like it is about someone who doesn't really have their humanity because they haven't had a chance to live, who is desperate for that opportunity. Yes, Denji wants to touch boobs. He also wants to be able to eat 3 meals a day, have a nice bed to sleep in, have a roof over his head, and just have people in his life that he can connect to. It's even like he learned just touching a boob doesn't mean anything. But if it's a boob of someone you like, of someone you care about, that's what makes it meaningful. It's the connections. What Denji honestly reminds me of the most is Travis Touchdown from No More Heroes. And I love me some No More Heroes. It's like, yeah, they're both shitheads. They're both total pervs who are kind of motivated to do shit and to kill a lot of people because they're total pervs. If Denji was inspired by Travis Touchdown, I wouldn't be surprised. But also at the same time, both of them are people who are leading this empty lifestyle. And all of the crap they're doing is essentially just, it's escapism, and it's just finding something to fill the void. And when Chainsaw Man is about that, I think it's really, really good. And yeah, I think it can be quite tragic. I just want to see if there was anything else I specifically had about Denji before I move on. Okay, the other thing is in the latest chapter, 113, again, won't go super into detail, but there's a moment where he's talking to a character who's just telling him, like, hey, I'm in control of this situation. This is what we're going to do. You don't have to think about anything. Just listen to what I have to say. And Denji not putting up with it. He doesn't get, super aggro. He's like, no, I'm ready to start thinking for myself now, and I don't think that's okay. It's a really kind of small moment, but it shows a lot of his growth. It definitely, I'm not going to talk about trails. I almost did for a second. But it's, yeah, I feel like the Denji at the start of Chainsaw Man would never have said that sentence. But with all the stuff he has been through, all the connections he's made, and the things he's had to do to keep those connections, and some of the connections he has unfortunately lost, have made him, I don't know if I would necessarily say a better person, but he's becoming a person. And I really liked that touch in the chapter. So, yeah, Denji is a total shithead, but I honestly really like his character. So kind of moving on to some of the other, like, major characters, and then some of the other kind of side characters. The other three main characters are Aki, Power, and Makima. And I really like them as different contrasts to who Denji is. Someone who wants to make these connections, doesn't really know how, and has no real control, or it's kind of a punny way of saying it, but no real power in his life either. You have Aki, someone who is very composed, very competent, who seems like he knows his role and is fine with doing it, but he's like, I just want to kill the gun devil. I have problems with this thing. It killed my family. I want to get rid of it. Aki does not want to make connections to other people because he's been in this business a long time. He has seen a lot of people die. Like, I just don't want to get attached. But despite that, he can't help the fact that he gets attached. It happens way too, I don't want to say it's way too easily, because it takes a while for him and Denji to get over their shit. I mean, spoiler alert, I don't feel like that's a major spoiler. How they get over their shit, that I'm not going to get into, although that is one of my favorite moments. But the fact that they do, I don't think that's a super crazy thing to say. But yeah, like, he becomes closer to Denji, he becomes closer to Power, they become his homies, to the point where once he is aware of, like, a mission to combat the gun devil, he doesn't want them to go on. He's like, I know that this is what I've been dedicating my life toward, but I'm willing to give up my ambition for the people around me. I thought that was really interesting. Then you have Power, who is so self-absorbed that she doesn't care for anyone else except herself and her cat. And I mean, that's basically it. It's like, yeah, I feel like they eventually, she grows to care about Denji and Aki, but I like the fact that she's not actively trying to make connections, and she's not actively trying to disassociate herself. It does just kind of happen, and she does not care. Power is not my favorite character, but she is a ton of fun. The whole, again, this is a scene that's been animated, so it's not a spoiler. When they're in the hotel and she's talking about, like, yeah, I want to win the Nobel Prize so I can become prime minister. And bam, I'm going to institute a 100% sales tax to make all of humanity suffer. Laughed my ass off. This scene that hasn't been animated, so using vague terms, the scene with her, Kobemi, and the car is one of the funniest scenes in the entire manga. I laughed so hard reading that scene, and just both of their reactions to the car scene. It's so good, man. And then on the other side, I can't say the flip side of the coin because it's not a three-sided coin with Makima, Power, and Aki, but I guess the other side of the triangle is Makima. Someone who doesn't really seem to make connections, doesn't seem like she's actively trying to or avoiding it, but she always just seems in control of her emotions, her relationships, and her situation. So I feel like for me, I mean, I guess there is a little bit, I'm not going to go into spoilers, as I keep saying, repeating myself, that's another thing for JJNW Bingo, I feel like she is a good reflection of Denji when it comes to making, like, wanting connections and such, but I really won't go into that here. But I think she's also a good reflection of Denji because, like I said, she's always very in control of what's kind of going on around her, whereas Denji is the exact opposite. And I love just seeing how he compares and heavily contrasts to the other people in his life. I think it's, again, part of the stuff that makes his character study so interesting. Let's see. I think that's really all I had to say about them. So I just kind of wanted to name some other characters I like. I love Kobemi. This poor woman. There are so many scenes of the world just absolutely shitting on her. The family burger scene is probably one of the best examples. It's so funny. Dude, I laughed so hard when I got to the I know I said that about the car scene too. I laughed really hard at both of them. Beam, the shark dude, I really liked. Sorry, I lost myself in my notes for a second. But Beam, Rez, I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce it. It's Rize. I'm just going to say Rez. Again, hasn't shown up in the anime yet. In the manga, you know who I'm talking about. I really liked Rez. Kobemi's car. Definitely one of the I love how there was, so apparently there was a character poll for, like, the top characters in Chainsaw Man. I think it was, like, I think the top 4 were Power, Makima, Rez, and Denji. I might be messing that up a bit. I remember Power was number 1. I think Denji was number 4. I think it was Kobemi was number 8. And literally Kobemi's car was number 7. I think that's so funny. I absolutely loved that. And I love Bucky. Bucky is hilarious. And Asa, who's a new character and has kind of become the protagonist of part 2. Like, Denji's still around. I guess that's probably a bit of a spoiler to say that he survives part 1. I don't feel like that's a crazy thing to say that, yeah, the main protagonist of this shonen manga is in the second part. But it's not, I mean, he's still important. But Asa has now kind of become the main focus. I like her quite a bit, especially after 113. Again, if you've read it, you know why. It was so fucking funny. And again, so that kind of transitions into some of my favorite moments from the series. Let's see. We have the snowball fight. Holy shit, the snowball fight. We have the astronaut scene and the devil you meet as a result. The scene with the car, the scene at Family Burger, and the ensuing DDR scene. The fight with the bomb devil, which includes the scene where Denji is riding the shark. I was like, does this count as jumping the shark? I don't, like, literally yes, but figuratively no, because this is the opposite. Because jumping the shark is when the show, or whatever it is, starts to get worse. This is like when it started getting a lot better. We have the climax of part 1. Again, without going into spoilers, the fight with the devil at the end of part 1, I really liked. Bucky, just any scene with Bucky, I absolutely love. The spinal cord sword, if you've read part 2, you know what I'm talking about. That shit was crazy. Like, that new main devil is so freaking cool. I really, really like it. The scene that was recently animated with Makima just exploding the bodies, really fucking cool. I loved reading that in the manga. I was like, how in the ever-loving fuck is she doing that? And I'll be honest, as someone who was caught up in the manga, I'm still not exactly sure. I don't know if that was explained and I missed it. I don't know if that's something that just wasn't explained. It's cool as hell. I love it. And, of course, the aquarium date. I must have spent like 2 hours after reading the aquarium date just on Twitter looking at memes. There's some really good memes for the aquarium. It's so funny, dude. Yeah, I mean, I think honestly, my final thought on Chainsaw Man, kind of put a bow on it. It's really funny, as you can tell. I'm just the times I'm like, oh yeah, this scene, and then I just start howling because I remember, like, they're so good. I can't wait for some of these to be animated, man. I think it is a very good tragedy when it is trying to be a tragedy. I think it's a great comedy when it's trying to be a comedy. It is just as tragic as it is funny, and it's really funny. I haven't actually watched the anime. I've seen a couple scenes. I want to just go ahead and read the manga since it was a lot further. I don't know if I'm going to sit down and just watch what the entire show is at this point. I think it's like 8 or 9 episodes. I feel like later events, though, I'm like, I have to watch this when they get to it. I'm so excited to see this scene get animated. Like, this panel, this fight, this funny shit. Like, I can't wait for the family burger scene. Like, the aquarium date, that's really funny. I feel like animated, I would just want to hear the voice acting because that's what would sell it. But like the family burger shit, I have to see that animated. The car scene, have to see that shit get animated. The snowball fight, probably gonna have to see that get animated. But I love me some Chainsaw Man. I'm really glad I read it. So yeah, my next big project, like I said on Thursday, another thing for bingo, is Final Fantasy IX. Not really going to say much about it here. I'm only a few hours into the game. Early vibes are positive. I'm enjoying it. That's it. Read or watch Chainsaw Man.